right, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Melissa Killeleagh Show. I have an amazing guest with me today. For those of you who followed the show, you know that this show was brought to life to be able to bring more of the amazing work and news going on out in the world, especially here in the Finger Lakes, in a time when all I could see was the doom and gloom on, mainstream TV. So over time, that has evolved. It's been, almost 4 years now. And more recently, I took a little pause in 2020. I think we all have. And coming back to the table, so to speak, the last few episodes have really been about anchoring ourselves to, looking at who we are, what we stand for in this world, taking great care of ourselves, understanding ourselves through the lens of wellness and self-care, knowing how to pivot, knowing how to shift, knowing how to adjust in the crazy times we find ourselves in. But this episode's a little bit different because as we wind down 2020 and look at 2021, I really wanted to talk about the idea of hope, right? Which, by the way, is a great acronym. I have a friend who says, help one person every day, hope, right? And I think that's so perfect. But hope in this episode is really about a few years ago, having the great fortune of meeting up with Melissa Killeleagh. She's the first female mayor of the city of Auburn, and helping to organize the Women March in Seneca Falls, which is the amazing birthplace of women's rights. And from that, having an organization evolve called First Amendment, First Vote, which is all about bringing to the young women of New York and beyond one day, right? The real history of women's rights and really understanding civic engagement, and then beginning to see themselves as future leaders in this country, whether it's at, the federal level, the state level, the local level, or just in life in general, in our homes, in our communities, in our nonprofit organizations, anywhere, to be able to confidently walk and stand and lead in your own voice. So without further ado, I have with me Morgan Wright, who is a member of the board of First Amendment, First Vote. Morgan, I'm so grateful to have you here today.
So happy to be here.
You are just such an amazing example of what it looks like when you've got this passion in your heart and you want to figure out how to help it, how that will help you show up in the world, right? How to bring these things that you feel deeply about and the convictions and the opinions, and to have that influence the things that you do and you stand for. So I first encountered your name with the walkout here in Geneva for the Parkland students, the Parkland victims. And since then have the privilege of serving on the board with you. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about how this process evolved for you, the things that you found yourself passionate about, how that walkout happened, how that felt for you.
Sure. So, I'll start with the walkout because that was my junior year. I wasn't really involved in First Amendment, First Vote yet. But I've got to say, the connections through social media nowadays are really impactful. I was first introduced to the idea of a walkout, I would say by the Parkland students that had survived and were looking to, they were protesting more of gun reform. I focused more on how to keep students safe in schools and have that be a sanctuary for them that they can come to and not have to worry if their life is on the line while getting an education that will better our local government, but also federal government, and keep our students motivated to participate in activism and stand up for themselves while considering the lives of others as well.
I love it. So how did you get involved then from there with First Amendment, First Vote? Did you have a teacher nominate you, or what happened there?
I was introduced to First Amendment, First Vote by my counselor and the social worker at Geneva. And then I met Melina, and we kind of clicked instantly, and we just kept chatting ever since the first meeting that we had. So that was great.
It's funny that you say that, because that's how I felt with Melina as well. And I used to think like, well, does everyone feel that way around her? Because she just has this very charismatic presence, but also because she's so deeply tuned into what's going on in the world and how to have her impact, right? Mm-hmm. But I think there's like an old soul element there. Has anyone ever called you an old soul?
Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine. So now you are a sophomore in HWS, right? Yep. And you shared with me majoring in sociology and then focusing on criminal justice. Yes. So where do you see that heading?
I'm still kind of debating on what I want to do. I've thought about grad school. I've thought about traveling, but I don't know. I might stay local just because I think that community has impacted me the most, and the support that I've gotten from my community, and I'd love to give that back. So I don't really know. Everything's still kind of up in the air. I don't know.
Listen, that is fair, because you are a sophomore, number one, but number two, we just lived through like the craziest year I've ever lived through in my life.
Definitely.
So I think that's a fair answer. But I love your passions and I love your convictions. So can you talk a little bit more about why criminal justice and why that speaks to you?
Mm-hmm. Initially, I took a class, and that was a unit that we talked about, and I didn't realize the impact that the criminal justice system had on everyday citizens. But most importantly, like ex-cons and people that are incarcerated currently, and how the system kind of repeats itself. And so I noticed like how especially low-income communities, people of color, were being affected by that, and I couldn't help but be interested. So
I so appreciate that, and I would get up and get it right now, except for then you'll see the craziness that is my house behind me, right? I have a 4-year-old at home who is in charge of decorating and everything else. But on my table, there's a book called In the Belly of the Beast. And have you heard of that before?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it yet.
Okay. Well, you're local. You're more than welcome to borrow it if you want to. I actually just got it back from a professor at HWS that I had lent it to. But that book really impacted me back in college, and really understanding, prison, for example, from the inside view of how they're designed and why. And I was really fortunate, as I shared with you earlier, to have had a little bit more experience and understanding of the world outside of my own personal view, because I got to go to a great inner city school in Buffalo and had such a diverse student body. But yet there was still so much I didn't know. And that book was like a shift for me. It was like a light bulb went off, like, oh my gosh, there are people out there having this wildly different experience from a system that is just designed from the get-go completely flawed, right? And so that book was really impactful. And then I shared with you also a few years ago, like the movie that really helped me to put things in perspective was the movie 13. If anybody's watching this and hasn't seen that, I think that's a great place to start. But back to First Amendment, first vote, because this speaks to my heart, right? This is where we look at all the things that are going on in the world and think about how they're going wrong. And we can either stay focused on that energy or we can do something about it.
Right.
The First Amendment, first vote is literally like, let's swim upstream a little bit here and take a look at our future leaders,
right,
and connect with them in a meaningful way. And I'm going to say this out loud. I am not against men. I am for women. And I do believe, especially when it comes to leadership, that the future is female, right?
100% agree.
If you disagree and you're watching this, you can stop listening, or you can listen on and you can hear why. Long ago, this model of leadership was made primarily by white men. And that was a huge constitution of our country at the time.
Right.
It is no longer. So we need a model that can serve people from a balanced place that understands diversity at its depth, at its core. And I truly believe that you have to make that pendulum swing to be able to ever come back to center, right? And so bringing in the female leadership that literally is our legacy of the land that we walk on in the Finger Lakes, right? The Native American community that was here long before us. They knew this. They understood that. Mm-hmm. And here we are in First Amendment, First Vote, revisiting some of that history and revisiting how things truly unfolded when it came to the right to vote and when it comes to what it looks like to be engaged in civic participation, what it looks like to really begin to envision yourself as a future leader. So I would love to know, like, what is the greatest impact that this program has had on you?
I would say that it has definitely narrowed my focus on the impact of community and like localness in general, and how, well, I specifically believe that like if you want to start with change, you can start small and you can start at local and like your community, and you can build up from there. And I've had a lot of support with my community, and First Amendment First Vote made me realize like how impactful I can be on my community as mm-hmm. well as they can be on me. Mm-hmm. So I just think it has definitely stressed the importance of serving your community.
Beautiful. And it sounds like it has definitely helped you find that voice and walk and speak from that place.
Absolutely.
Confidently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have a great mentor out in Auburn, New York, Gwen Weber McLeod. She's been on the show before. Actually, I'll send you one of our interviews. She talks about these, areas of leadership that she finds to be pillars, which are confidence, competence, courage, and calm. And I feel like those pillars were part of the very program that Melina was able to put together.
100%.
Right. Being able to sit with other leaders, other female leaders, being able to have those conversations, being an equal at the table. There's no feeling of like, us versus them or inferiority because you're a student and they're an elected official.
Right.
How was that for you? How was that experience?
I was nervous at first because around that time I wanted to get involved in poli-sci when I went to college, and I kind of had a vision for myself that maybe I would be in their position one day. So one specific thing I remember is somebody calling me out and saying that I wanted to be a poli-sci major. So everybody gave me their business cards and was like, let me know in a couple of years, like I can help you. So that was pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, to know that you already have this tribe of women with their hands on your back, right? Yeah, it's a really incredible thing. And I was able to see that, the different women who came to the table from Western New York through Central New York, and now we're expanding beyond that. And it feels so good because we do have so many beautiful examples of women in politics and women in leadership. And the more programs that we have to help women find their voice and navigate this space is really powerful.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you're in school, First Amendment First Vote is a great program, and there are many others. For someone who is a little bit older, try a lot older, but a little bit older, we have Women Elect, right, which is a leadership program that, surprise, surprise, Melina also has her hands in. And it's run through a political action committee out of Western New York. But I'm grateful for all these opportunities because despite the fact that we live close to the birthplace of women's rights, I feel like we still have a long way to come.
I would totally agree.
Yeah.
I'm also so grateful for the experience. Not many people can relate to having their voices heard at such a young age, especially women, and then have those voices amplified.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And I think it's only going to get better because, as you know, being on the board, now that we're talking about how we can have greater reach and impact on social media, there's so much opportunity there, right?
Yeah,
for us to engage students from all over, even if they haven't participated in the program, but especially for the ones who have, to be able to share their experiences and continue to connect with people. So what are some of the words of wisdom that you would have for a young woman who perhaps, you know, is the age that you were when you stumbled upon this? If she's looking to, you know, voice her opinion or to get involved or to just find her place in all of it, right? Because this year has definitely left a lot of us feeling like, where do I fit? Where is my place? What are some of the words of wisdom that you would have for that young girl?
It's not as scary as you think. Because the people that do speak up, people realize that and they appreciate that, because it can be hard and it can be scary. But at the end of the day, you're going to have a community that's going to support you. Even if there are people that disagree with you or are giving you a tough time, there are going to be people that support you.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I love that you point that out, because quite often when we have strong opinions, we're going to have people close to us who disagree.
Right.
They might even be family, right? But when we actually stand firm in our convictions, there are other people who share them as well, and we're able to connect with them and to find those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you talked about, you know, the fact that it's scary, but it's not as scary, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, which is that life begins when we get outside our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Right. It's that constant growth and evolution. And it seems like something that you truly value as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So who has been one of your greatest role models or influencers, like over the last few years, as you continue to grow in this space?
I'd have to say my mom, because she has always been a strong, independent woman who hasn't been afraid to voice her opinion. And so I definitely think that I took after her in that sense. But then she stepped back and she was like, it's your time now, you know, you can go and I'll always support you. And I mean, I have like another interview later this week, and she was like, go do them all. People want to hear your voice. I want to hear your voice. So
I love it. I love it. I too come from a strong mama. And one of the things that I have always admired as well is just that, like, courage.
Yes.
Courage. And I'm really crazy about words. So when I think about courage, right, thinking about where that word comes from and what it means, it's like moving through life with an open heart, right? The full heart. And so that means that not only do we experience the love and the joy and all of the great things, but we also hold the space for, you know, the fear and the injustice and like all of the darker parts of life, right? And it gives us the opportunity to actually work with that.
Yeah.
And to continue to lead from that space. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. So anything else you would like to add to share with our viewers?
Trying to think. I don't know. I would say just look into First Amendment, First Vote, because it has truly been an insane experience. It has made such a great impact. And I know it's not just an impact on me, but the other young ladies that did it. And even the adults that were participating, they learned so many things too as well. So.
Yeah. And what I love is if you're watching this, it's not just for you if you are a young woman. Look into it no matter what, because we need funders. We need schools to partner with. We need people to get inspired by this, because I do believe that at some point in the not so distant future, this program will roll out on a much greater level, potentially nationally. And I look forward to when that day happens, because we can impact so many more people, which in turn also provides so much hope for the future that is ahead of us. So,
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say thank you to your mom. And I'm going to say thank you to Geneva School District, right? Because they must have done something right, but also that old soul that you have, Morgan. You are such an incredible human being. I'm so grateful you're on our board, and I look forward to getting to know you even better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.